The man cautiously opened the door, and what he saw was terrifying. His wife's head was stuck in an alligator's mouth, yet the man didn't seem nervous at all. He walked over and patted her. No respond. Okay, pull her out. Then, she suddenly sprang to life, quickly thanking her husband for saving her, while he was busy checking the price tag. Thank God it was a big sale. Turns out, this wasn't the first time his wife had played dead. The last time, he found his wife covered in blood on the floor. He quickly called the police, only for his wife to play zombie. He was so terrified, and she was ecstatic. Since then, she kept coming up with wild scenarios, sometimes being murdered in disputes, sometimes heroically dying. This time, it was more subtle. He found out his wife had been hit in the head with an arrow. Every time the man returned home, his wife would play dead, always in bizarre ways. Being bitten by an alligator, shot with arrows, dying in battle, even being abducted by aliens. Every day, the man was forced to play alone. Finally, he couldn't stand this peculiar game anymore, and his colleague decided to help him out. He introduced his wife to her and arranged for them to hang out. However, the pretending continued. One day, his wife texted him to buy a chainsaw, and he sighed, realizing another scare was in store. As he approached their house, he heard Egyptian music playing inside. Sure enough, his wife had dressed up as an Egyptian pharaoh. Later that day, the man finally gathered the courage to tell his wife he was tired of her daily antics. She remained silent for a long time. That night, in the half-awake state, his wife whispered, "Honey, the night looks beautiful." Every time he returned home, his wife would startle him. And today, seeing his wife's outrageous appearance, he even felt like saying, "Oops, wrong house." This time, his wife was a futuristic person, but the man became very angry. He asked her, "What are you trying to do?" She didn't answer, but instead got up to fetch a calculator. He asked why, and she replied, "I'm calculating how much time we have left together. If we live to 80, we have 41 years left, which is 14,965 days, a total of 359,160 hours. The man said it was plenty of time, but she was concerned about the diminishing time. When he asked her about her feelings now, she didn't respond, but went to the window, opened the curtains, and said, "The night looks beautiful tonight." This girl was accidentally bumped by a classmate, and her wig fell to the ground. However, her classmate firmly stepped on it after discovering that she was bald, even kicking the wig away. That wasn't enough. Beth returned to the classroom to chat with a friend, and suddenly Lily yanked the wig off. Lily excitedly announced that Beth was bald, and her new name should be Bald Beth. The classmates laughed happily, and Lily even took a photo, claiming she would share this joke with the whole school, then tossed the wig on the ground. During the class, Beth could only wear a hat and secretly cried. After school, Beth discovered that Lily had actually posted her picture on the wall, and all the schoolmates were laughing. Beth tore the photo down and confronted Lily, asking why she did that. At that moment, Lily's mom came to pick her up to go to the hospital to see her sister. Lily had no idea what she would witness next. Mom lifted her sister's hat, revealing that a few days ago, her sister shaved her head for chemotherapy, and since then, she hadn't smiled. Lily didn't know how to make her happy. Suddenly, Beth pushed open the door, introduced herself to Lily's sister, and said she brought a little gift. She took out 2 wigs. Seeing her sister unaffected, Beth put on one herself, showing that it's simple and can be paired with cute hair clips. She gently asked if her sister wanted to try, and her sister nodded. Beth quickly helped her put on the wig, handed her a mirror, and the girl revealed a long-lost smile. Then Beth put on a hair clip for her, and she liked it when she looked in the mirror. As Beth was about to leave, Lily suddenly stopped her, apologized, and Beth graciously forgave her. It turned out that Beth's sister had been sick a few years ago, and after chemotherapy, she had to shave her head. Unable to bear her sister's sadness, Beth shaved her own head to let her sister know she wasn't alone.
This babysitter tied up the little girl because parents weren't home, and pushed her down. The girl thought they were playing a game, but when she stood up, the woman pushed her again. This kept happening until the girl threatened to tell her mom. That's when the babysitter finally let the girl go. The angry girl gave the woman a piece of her mind, but the harder she fought back, the happier the babysitter felt. She grabbed her hands and excitedly said, "If anyone crosses you again, you should give them a taste of their own medicine, just like now." Later, when the mom returned, she noticed the bruises on her daughter and questioned the babysitter loudly. However, the girl immediately told her mom that she got herself hurt while playing. The next day, the babysitter wanted to pick up the little girl from school as usual, but she saw a man pushing the girl. She rushed to the scene and was surprised to see the girl already on her feet, standing her ground against the man. Even though she got knocked down several times, the girl kept standing up to the man. The babysitter smiled with satisfaction. The girl had finally learned to assert herself and wouldn't let others bully her around anymore.
This woman is dead, but she is home again, taking care of chores as if everything was normal. You couldn't touch her or communicate with her. She was just silently present. What's even stranger is that only the husband could see her. After several attempts, the daughter started to feel overwhelmed and said, "You're never home, and if you become like mom, I won't be able to handle it." The husband knew he had been too busy with work over the years, so he asked if she had something to say, but she continued with her household chores as if she was by herself. A friend suggested that even though he couldn't see her, this might be the memory of his wife. The next day, his wife was about to go out, so he followed her. When she came out of the hospital, he finally understood. It was the day 3 years ago when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. On that day, he had been too busy to answer her phone call. Without her, his life became a mess. Thankfully, she was still there. Oh, so this is how the washing machine works. Even arranging shoes takes so much thought. Following his wife, he learned to make dumplings, manage the household efficiently, and he realized how lonely doing chores alone could be. Wait, why is she taking so much money? Where is she going? Wife's ghost secretly took some money and went out, so her husband followed her. Turns out she went to a fancy restaurant and enjoyed a luxurious lunch alone. He now realized that this was the extent of her enjoyment. On their way back, she suddenly turned and went to a park. An elderly person recognized him. "Your wife is a very lucky woman. She told me that you waved to her from the tram every day after work." It turned out that all these years, and his wife was still keeping their promise when married, waving to him every day. One day, a friend reminded him that eventually, he would face the day of parting with his wife again. So, to live with his wife's memories until the very end, he quit his job. Since then, 1 year, 2 years passed, and the second farewell was approaching. One evening, his wife disappeared. He remembered it was the day she had gotten lost. He didn't even have time to look for her. The police brought her back the next day. From that day on, her condition worsened. She even forgot the way back home each day. She spent more and more time lost in thought at home. Suddenly, she burst into a smile. Turns out, the wife saw news of a baby gorilla being born at the zoo. When he was 26, he proposed to her in front of this very gorilla couple. But one day, a fire broke out due to an iron left plugged in. He was so worried and urged her to run. However, she turned back and went looking for something. The photo of their proposal day. He cried out, begging her to run for her life. Suddenly, she spoke. She had always knew where she was. She just couldn't let go of her husband and wanted to stay a bit longer to watch him over. Now that she already taught her husband everything, knowing that he could take good care of himself, it is time for her to leave for good. Check this out. This guy scrubs himself with a wire sponge and soaks in disinfectant. After that, he can't wait to strip his wife's clothes off and greedily smell her. Turns out his job involves dealing with dead bodies, even decomposed ones. He used to be an artist, but his band split up after he bought a cello with a loan. To repay it, a friend hooked him up with a high-paying gig that pays $500,000 a day. But here's the catch, he has to be around dead people every day. He thought, ain't nothing scarier than being broke, so he took the job. But boy, did he regret it on the first day. The corpse he dealt with was too rotten to handle, and there were maggots everywhere, making him puke from the stench. Despite his uselessness, he got paid. But he still felt miserable and dirty. Back home, his wife made chicken to cheer him up, but all he saw was a dead chicken body, and he puked again. After that, he tore her clothes off and started sniffing, which apparently making her misunderstand. The next day, when he was thinking about quitting, but the boss got another gig, so he had to attend a funeral, his first time witnessing one. This old man stuffs gauze into the dead person's mouth, covers her with a blanket, then, he cleans her body with disinfectant, meaning she leaves this world as pure as she came in. After cleaning, he even dresses in the burial clothes himself, and the whole process is done with solemnity. He clasps her stiff arms across her chest. The crucial step comes next, doing makeup. Since the skin is delicate, he has to be gentle. He asks her families to bring her own lipstick, and uses it very carefully, meaning to give her eternal beauty. This makes the guy realize the noble significance of this job. Soon, he handles many dead bodies alone. In Japan, though, even a dog wouldn't take this job. So, he is afraid to tell his wife about it. But one day, the wife sees a funeral home's commercial with her husband in it. He has no choice but to confess everything. But her response is firm. He tries to make up, but his wife won't listen to him. Since then, he decides to quit after making 10 million. But the next deceased person changes his mind completely. This man gets interested in a dead girl. He sticks in an incense, then folds his hands and prepares the corpse. He uncovers the shroud and presses the skin of the dead person to soften it. Next, he lifts the sheet because he's going to remove her clothes. He moves the stiff limbs, then covers the sheet. It is important that the family doesn't see the skin. After removing the clothes, he takes away the sheet and brings some water. Then, he starts washing her body. However, he suddenly stops. The master is more experienced,
so he takes the towel to confirm that the girl is actually a boy. Out of respect, he quietly asks the family if they want to make him up as a boy or a girl. Then, he carefully applies makeup to the deceased, who looks so much alive. Since then, the man earns a lot as an embalmer and enjoys a happy life. But when his wife learns about his profession, they fight, and she leaves him. A year later, when her relative passes away, she remembers the man. After the process of washing, massaging, dressing in a definite solemnity, he prepares the body with love just like his master did, which deeply moved his ex-wife. She finally accepts his profession.